Hey, what's up everyone? This is Regan sitting down with Elaine today, and we were going to do something a bit more personal today and dig into the life of Elaine living here in New Zealand and teaching Chinese. She's planning to go back to China next month, and she's been here for about a year, so I wanted to get her take on what it's like living here in New Zealand and bring value or give value and information to people who are interested in coming to New Zealand in the future. Before we get started, Elaine can tell us how she's been going today. I think it's her day off today. And what do you usually do on your days off, Elaine? What do you get up to?
我一般会选择出门，然后可能去健身房运动一下，然后在街上逛一逛，或者自己骑自行车走一走。对。
So one of those things was the gym. What were you doing in the gym today? Were you exercising or just hanging out?
当然要运动了，然后今天蒸了一下桑拿。
Is that like the main attraction, the sauna?
可能吧。
It's like my mum. My mum, I feel like she doesn't go to the gym to exercise, but she goes to the gym because they have a massage chair.
Oh, okay.
That's like, oh my God. I feel like that's the main reason she goes. Sauna would be nice. I wish I had a sauna in my gym. All right, anyway, let's get into this stuff. You're going back to China. What do you miss about China maybe these days recently? Are there any things you miss other than your family, of course, maybe? I mean, if you don't, well, I don't know if you miss them or not, but I guess you do.
我当然要想我的家人呢，还有我的朋友。我的朋友们他们都在等着我回去呢，然后我也怀念中国的食物。我在这边去中餐厅其实很少，因为在 Nelson 中餐厅也不多，就那么几家都去过了，平时都是自己做饭，就很怀念在中国可以随时随地去外面吃饭的那种感觉，那种幸福感。
So it sounds like a lot of food, Chinese food, restaurants, Chinese restaurants. I find myself here, not to take away from what Elaine is saying, but me being here in New Zealand right now, I also miss China a lot. And I'm also eating at Chinese restaurants a lot. But it's weird because when I'm in China, I kind of like to go to Western restaurants. But then when I leave China and I come back to New Zealand, I like to go to Chinese restaurants.
我还怀念中国随处可见的 KTV 你知道吗？
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so and another thing that she misses is KTV, which is not really, you can't really find many places in New Zealand, KTV places.
对，我喜欢跟我朋友一起去玩。
Okay, so we got these two things. So family, friends, food, KTV. Is there anything else you miss?
夜生活。对，在新西兰这边没有夜生活，晚上7点8点就已经准备睡觉了，或者是做一些别的事情，就是反正就不可能在外面玩。但是在中国，在外面玩看电影啊，跟朋友逛街，可能晚上9点10点都还在外面没有回家。
Yeah, so this last thing is like a nightlife. 夜生活. Yeah, what do you call it? How do you say it?
夜生活.
夜生活. So nightlife in New Zealand is quite limited, and so I guess if you're like someone that likes to party a lot, get ready for that. People go to bed early here as well, and it's hard not to fall into that pattern, fall into that habit when everything's closing really early. It starts to make you want to go to bed early, and but there's good things about going to bed early. I mean, it's not a bad thing, and going out and having partying is, it's not. Some people, would rather stay at home, homebody people, be creative at home or just hang out at home with friends or people's places, which, that is a kind of trade-off, I guess, in New Zealand is we do spend a lot of time at other people's houses as well. And in the evenings for parties and things, we don't just go outside to a place and meet as well. Is there anything else?
还有别的吗？还有中国的便利的公共交通 public transportation 在新西兰这边坐公交真的太慢了，对，我要等好久。然后在中国就是可能每隔10分钟、5分钟就有一班新的公交车，然后还有地铁，对，很方便。
Yeah, I was saying this. I was talking to my friend the other day, telling him how I just miss being able to go outside, stand on the side of the street, put my hand out, taxi stops. I literally just jump into the taxi and he just takes off and we just fly anywhere we want to go. And it's great. We have a great conversation and great fun in a taxi. So she's talking about missing public transportation in China, which, yep, fair enough. I could do with the subway, not the sandwich.
还有高铁
And a high-speed train, yeah. Could do with one of those as well, like a high-speed train, take me to Christchurch would be nice. The problem is there's just too many birds and like insects and it just wouldn't work in New Zealand. Like I've thought about a high-speed train in New Zealand, but it just wouldn't. Yeah, it would be horrific for the wildlife here.
中国不是，新西兰只有 intercity bus， 就是从一个城市到另外一个城市，就是比较短的距离的话，就如果不选择坐飞机，然后自己也不开车，就只有 intercity bus。那我觉得这个其实是非常耗时的，就是花的时间会比较多。
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with taking the bus. Like we have, I think we call it the intercity bus, and we have another. Actually, there's different kinds of buses that can take you. Basically, what I want to say is there's a pretty bad buses get a bad reputation. But in New Zealand, travelling by bus is actually, I think, is actually a pretty cool way to get around. Not that I do it. I should do it more, but I don't. Okay, so she misses buses as well. Sorry, not buses. I mean, you don't. I mean, she misses the public transportation. Okay, so just from this first question, there's a bunch of things that I think you can begin to see and get a feel for how New Zealand is kind of different in these ways, and to prepare yourself. Just before I was at the milk tea shop, and I was talking to the Chinese owner. Let's call him the milk tea man, milk tea guy. And he was saying, like, for Chinese people coming to New Zealand, they really need to lower their expectations. Do you agree with this?
我可以理解人们为什么会有这种想法。就在中国来过新西兰的人，他们会把新西兰称为纽村，纽就是纽西兰，村就是一个 countryside。就是纽村，就是有的时候就感觉像一个大农村一样。对，你想表达的是这个意思吗？就是放低人们对新西兰的期待，是这个意思吗？就是可能它没有像中国的大城市一样那么繁华。
Yeah, I think people maybe they're thinking that New Zealand is like a paradise, some kind of place to escape the busy streets, and all the noise of China. But then you get here and it's like it's nice for the first few weeks or a few months. If you come as a tourist, I think it can be very postcard-like, very pretty, very pristine, very clean, very green, and all of that. But then when you live here, I think a different reality starts to set in, and you begin to see more clearly, like how the society works here in New Zealand. And maybe for some, like just one fang mian, for example, is like finding a job is kind of tricky, or like buying houses, for example, quite expensive. Kids, like the conversation that I had, I won't go too far off topic here, but we were talking about primary school education, because the milk tea man has a child in primary school, and he was telling me like they just don't do homework. There's like no homework.
No homework. 没有家庭作业.
Yeah, and I think for some parents, maybe in China, people think like the education for kids in New Zealand is like really good, but maybe they didn't realize like it's too good, like it's too free. And maybe some people have issues with that kind of thing. But, maybe there are schools that are not so free, that do actually, have homework and stuff. But I think for Chinese parents, he was concerned, like, my child, like, has 2 months holiday coming up. Is there some homework that I can give them? And I think the teacher's like, just let them play, just let them have fun. And for Chinese parents, maybe that's like crazy, like 2 months just playing, like no way.
对，他们会觉得我的孩子2个月的假期，什么作业也没有，那不就是如果只是2个月的时间都拿去给他们玩，这样是不是有一点浪费时间、浪费生命？他们会觉得假期就应该让孩子多学一点东西。对。
I remember that I never had homework, I never had to do anything. I just play, socialize, draw some pictures, sing some songs. I mean, and it obviously wasn't that simple, but like you were very somewhat free to kind of do whatever you wanted. And well, not whatever you wanted, but I imagine it was quite different from China, the Chinese primary school style, which is more systematic. Like he was telling me that the parents communicate with the teacher through WeChat, and they have groups in WeChat, and so the teacher can send homework through WeChat to the parents, and then the teacher can check and make sure that the parents are, giving the homework to their kids and getting their kids to do homework. So there's this like crazy direct communication from parent to teacher and student, like all together in WeChat, which is really something that New Zealand just, I don't think New Zealand has something like that. I could be wrong, but that seems next level.
是的，在中国这非常的常见，就是可能有一个家校群、微信群，就是学生的家长，然后跟学校的老师、班主任他们有一个群，然后呢，老师就会在群里面发作业啊，或者是给大家发送一些别的通知，然后家长也会在群里面发一些，就是有什么问题大家会拿出来讨论。就我有朋友在中国是当老师，然后他们有的时候就会在很晚的时候，已经下班的时间，还收到家长发来的微信，询问一些问题。对，我觉得这是其实对中国的老师来说是一个压力很大的事情。对，就好像工作跟生活混在了一起。
Oh, okay. Well, this is good because Elaine is basically backing up what I just said because I have no idea what it was. Well, actually, no, I do, because I worked at some schools that teach kids in the weekend, so it's like part-time classes, weekend classes for kids, like, what do you call that? Cram school type English classes. And we always had like a Chinese teacher helping us. And the Chinese teacher would take care of all the parents' concerns and problems and homework and all of that. And they were communicating in WeChat like that. So, it's like they would be reading the words, like sending voice messages into the group chats and stuff. So, but this kind of topic is maybe more for older people who want to have kids, maybe thinking about raising kids in New Zealand, for the future. And maybe most of the listeners are probably not that old and probably not thinking about this, although some people might be. So we want to give information to as many groups of people as we can. So maybe for young people, we can come away from this topic for a second. And I want to ask you another question. So the first question I asked was about what she misses in China. And I'm just curious, like when you go back, is there like what's the first thing you're going to do?
我回家，我的朋友应该会来接我。他们之前有说要来接我，然后他们会在机场接我，应该有几个朋友。对，然后他们当然第一件事就是跟他们去吃饭呀。
Oh, okay. Of course, yeah. So the friends are going to pick her up.
对，他们还给我准备了一个，这是他们说的，我不确定他们会不会真的准备。他们要准备一个横幅。我当他们开玩笑 ，a banner.
Okay, so it's like half of China, half of the people in her hometown, her friends are going to turn up at the airport with a big banner. Welcome back, Elaine. Yeah, and then she's going to go eat.
对。
Well, that's not that's just a fun question. But the real question I want to ask you is, what are you going to miss about being in New Zealand? Other than me, of course, I know you're going to miss me. And of course, people like Jenny and, your colleagues and stuff.
对，我肯定会怀念在新西兰遇到的这些友好的朋友。对，因为可能我回中国以后，很多人我可能以后都不会有太多的联系，但是我确实在这边受到很多人的照顾。然后我会 我怀念中国的食物，但是新西兰的超市我也会怀念，因为我可以从超市里面买到各种各样的食物。我觉得新西兰的超市它比中国的超市更加多样化。在中国的超市，我去普通的超市一般只能买到中国产的生产的食品，但是在新西兰我可以买到各种来自全世界各个国家的食物。对。
Do you think if you stayed in New Zealand sorry, she's talking about missing the supermarket food and maybe being able to buy so many different countries' foods. Another question I have, just put this quickly in here. Do you think if you stayed in New Zealand for like 10 years, you might die? Or get really unhealthy?
不会啊。
Or sick or anything
不
like that?
会，我的适应能力很强，就是我感觉我是这种无论到哪一个地方，我都能很快适应环境，并且让自己过得很好的那种。我来新西兰以后这么久了，我从来没有一次觉得我的身体不舒服。
Oh, okay. So it's not too different, and it's not too difficult to be able to adapt to what's going on here, the food and the water and.
对，跟人有关，就可能我的身体比较好，然后到哪里我都能够比较快速的适应当地的环境。
So I forgot what the question was. Yes, no. What are you going to miss about New Zealand? So we've got one example was me, and I forgot the other one. Supermarket, the
超
food.
市。
What else?
这边的自然环境是很
Can't take
优
that
美
with
的。
you.
对，是的。
I mean, I guess you take it with you in your, like that's what I always think about when I go to China, or anywhere outside of New Zealand. I always think to myself, like, I'm carrying all the memories and all the colors and everything, like in my head, in my imagination. It sounds kind of weird, but I have New Zealand in my head, like in my eyes, and I can see that, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful, and so whenever I go anywhere, like that's always there, like in the back of my head, like I'm taking New Zealand with me wherever I go. And it sounds kind of romantic and cliche, but that's the honest truth, I've seen so much of when you live here long enough, you just see it, the beaches and the trees, the cats and the birds, the grass and the smells and the flowers and all of that stuff, and the mountains. Yeah, and it's sorry, I'm going off topic here. So you can't take that stuff with you, unfortunately, but you do take it spiritually, with you.
而且还有很多的照片。
Oh yes, good point.
有很多我跟新西兰这边的很漂亮的一些环境的照片，比如说在沙滩、海滩，然后在之前去旅游的时候也拍了很多照片。我觉得我之后如果怀念新西兰，我都可以回看这些照片。
Are you going to miss in the evening, for example, when you go to bed, it's super quiet.
对
You're going to miss that?
对，我
What
会
about the
怀念。
stars?
天上的星星。
Yeah.
我可能看星星看的比较少，但是有的时候我抬头看天空，就是在晚上的时候，确实会被震撼到，就觉得哇，这边的星星好大好亮。在中国，我基本上有的时候就看不到星星。对，我应该会怀念这一点。然后刚刚你讲的安静，对。
Are you going to miss the being able to drink water out of the tap and not having to boil water, like not having to drink water out of a plastic bottle, for example? Are you going to miss that?
是的，我会怀念的。在中国，水龙头里面的自来水是不能直接喝的，但是在新西兰，我好像也习惯了，就是直接接水，接了就喝。对。
That's definitely like one of the more challenging things for me was, boiling water, drinking the water from like plastic bottles and things, and but there's machines. They have big machines like in universities. And, you just push a button and it's like hot water.
Sure.
But I noticed the water actually tastes quite different in China. And it tastes like the different types of water that you can drink in China also taste kind of different. But it's definitely like, I don't know, it's just, I mean, you can approach water in different ways in China. How you go about drinking it. A lot of people have like big water machines in their house, and they just change out these big 2, 3, 4 liter big bottles of water. Anyway.
对，因为我可能习惯了中国喝水，所以我觉得我回到中国以后，我也依然一样能够习惯以前喝水的方式。对。所以这个对我来说还好，其实，直接接水喝。我应该会怀念，我又要讲回吃的了。我要讲，就是我在这边发现超市里有卖那种肉，就是他们都分类很齐全，超市里面，然后都给你包装好。在中国，其实我感觉是很难见到，就是分得这么细致的，就是分门别类，猪肉、羊肉、鸡肉、牛肉。然后各种肉，它里面有的已经给你撒好了料，就是你直接回家直接吃就可以，就是弄熟。对。
All right, so here's another question, the third question for Elaine. What are you going to do in your final weeks here? And is there anything that you regret not doing while you were here in New Zealand?
OK。我在新西兰的最后几周，应该还是会先把我这边的工作都完成，先完成这边的工作，做一个收尾，一个总结，然后呢，我会规划明年的事情，就做一下计划，然后如果有时间的话，可以再去旅游一下，如果我有空闲的时间的话，对。然后这边不是也有很多认识的朋友嘛，就可能走动去拜访一下朋友。然后我在这边后悔没有做的事情。
Wait, let me translate that. So finish your work, and then do a little bit of travel. Maybe see some of your friends.
对。
Okay, so the other question, the part 2 question was regrets, like anything that you wanted to do in New Zealand that you never got the chance to do, like bungee, skydive.
哎，你怎么知道？我就想说这个。我之前去皇后镇的时候，就看到了很多人在天上就是滑翔伞。
You say 皇后镇 What's it?
皇后镇
Where's
Queenstown.
Queenstown, okay.
对，之前去皇后镇玩的时候，看到了那些项目，我就觉得好可怕呀！我不想试，因为我有一点担心自己会掉下来然后死，就是我是一个很怕死的人，我胆子很小。但是其实想想，哎呀，我都去皇后镇了，为什么我不试一试呢？对，有一点后悔。
Let me jump in here. So Queenstown, because maybe people don't know, we often talk about Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland. There's a boy I was talking to recently online. He was telling me he wants to hear me talk about Hamilton, which is close to Auckland. But Hamilton, like, I don't know anything about Hamilton. I've never even been to Hamilton. So, but Elaine is talking about Queenstown now. So Queenstown is, to me, that's like the tourist town. That's the touristy place of New Zealand. Queenstown and another place, you could also say Wanaka is another place there. Some beautiful lakes, beautiful mountains, beautiful place to go skiing, snowboarding. But you can also go and do some adventure sports and some crazy things like skydiving. And Elaine was just talking about skydiving and how. But is that? Do you actually want to do that?
我当时不想，但是我会想，是不是会以后会后悔？对，就是会后悔，就是为什么不去试一下？因为大家那么多人都去做了，他们都很安全呀，就是我自己胆子小。
Okay, so we got jumping out of a plane. She's just a little bit worried about dying, which is fair enough. I've never been skydiving before myself. Is there anything else that you would like to have done or seen, places to go?
可能是上次我们 Term 3 break 本来说好去西海岸 West Coast， 后面也没有去了。对，因为之前有别的同事 coworkers， 他们去了西海岸，然后看他们发了一些照片，感觉很美。他们去冰川徒步，感觉很酷。
Okay, I think we should talk about the main question then. which we've kind of we've been answering these questions kind of indirectly up until this point, but to ask the question directly, I think let's see what happens. But what should people prepare for, like before they come to New Zealand? I mentioned a few things already, about like the primary school situation. We know there's a lot of nature, but people go to bed early, right? We talked about some of these things already, but is there anything we can add in here that you think, like let's say before you came here, you wish you knew before coming here, for example? And I said the milk tea man, he said lower your expectations before you come to New Zealand. But I don't really know what he means by that. It's tricky because I didn't ask him. I didn't probe and say, well, like, what do you mean exactly by that? But let's just roll with these things. Like, what do you think?
首先一定要有钱，对，带足够多的钱。
Gotta have money, lots of money.
对，因为不止一个人跟我说过，新西兰是一个很贵的国家，就是在这边生活其实成本还蛮高的。如果去超市看一看，就跟隔壁的澳大利亚相比，它好像物价要高一点。对，如果说自己家里没有足够多的积蓄，或者是你在这边不能找到一个
What's that?
Savings。对，积蓄。然后，如果在这边不能找到一个工资比较高的工作，那么在这里生活其实成本会比较高。对。
So 成本 is cost of living. Yeah.
对。
So you're saying if you don't get a good job that pays a lot of money,
对
things are going to be tough
对
for you.
对。
Okay, we get that. We all New Zealand people understand that.
对。
Right, we know that, and that's like a global thing at the moment
okay.
for a lot of people.
好。
But also. Yeah, I guess for an international person, it's going to be different. Your life is going to be different coming in here. Like, what else can you add other than money? Because I think money is the obvious.
我建议女孩子们可以多带一些自己国家喜欢的衣服。对，我觉得在新西兰这边去商店里面买衣服，确实很难买到合适的、好看的，对，物美价廉的，就是很难买到。对。
So you got to bring as much clothing as you can.
对。
And don't expect to be able to buy clothes here that you like, which I think is probably fair enough. Like I haven't bought much since I've been here, and I was really happy with a lot of the places you can buy clothes in China.
是的，我来这边基本没有买过衣服。对。
Okay, what about the language side then? Like, how important is the English aspect?
基本的英语还是要会的，就是至少要能够做到与人家正常的沟通，也不讲究你的口音要多么的标准，但至少基本的跟人家沟通要能够做到交流沟通，要基本能够做到。我觉得不需要特别好，因为说句实话，我觉得这边的华人挺多的，对。有的人他的英文不是很好，他就在华人圈子里面生活，他也能够在新西兰生存下去。
Okay, I mean I've heard Elaine say in a previous video that there's people here that can speak good Chinese that you can like be friends with maybe. I don't know if she remembers saying it, but I remember because I remember thinking about that and I thought, I don't know if that's true. Like, I don't think there are many Kiwi people or non-Chinese people in New Zealand that actually speak good Chinese that would allow you to make friends with. Like, I don't think you can find people here that you can be friends with and just speak Chinese, except for Chinese people.
对，我说的就是华人圈子，就中国人的圈子。其实我觉得中国人的圈子挺大的，那么多人。然后有的人他的英文不是很好，他可能就在华人圈子里面给他们工作，然后生活、买东西什么的，这些日常只要能够解决这些生活的问题，英语不是很好的话，我觉得问题不会特别大。
Okay, I would disagree a little bit.
是吗？
Yeah, because you're going to learn English coming here, but
对。
I always think like if you can learn as much as you possibly can before you go somewhere, it's going to benefit you. But to rely on coming to New Zealand for all your English learning is difficult, especially if you're older. Especially if you're just about to go to university, it's like, oh wow, that's pretty rough.
对，
But
如果是说要去一所大学学习的话，那肯定英文很重要了。对，如果在这边是做一些非常正式的，需要跟很多的新西兰人本地人打交道的工作或者是学习，那英文是确实很重要。那我建议的话，就是在来新西兰之前，尽可能把英语学好，对，学得越多越好。
anything else to prepare for?
我觉得如果来之前对新西兰这个国家不是很了解，可以提前研究一下新西兰这边的地理呀、文化。对，我觉得文化很重要。我觉得新西兰本土的文化一些文化禁忌，你知道吗？就是 taboo 啊，或者是跟人家交往的一些礼节 manners， 对，都可以就是提前自己查一下、学习一下，避免在跟别人打交道的时候引起误会。
So she's saying basically, do some research about the culture here, the things you shouldn't do, the taboo things, and and the manners, the polite things that you can learn about. And I think the good thing about New Zealand is that it's a small place, and we don't have a lot of people here in New Zealand, and you can study the geography quite easily. It's not you could memorize basically all of the main places, and it's quite easy to get around. And we don't have a long history either, so it's also something really simple to understand and read about. And the same with the people. I think New Zealand people can be quite simple and easy to get along with. Like people are very down to earth. They don't have like complicated political beliefs, and they don't follow like crazy ideologies that you might, maybe not the right description, but I just think people are more down to earth here and a little bit easier to get along with. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to have like deep and meaningful philosophical conversations with everyone. But I think generally like you can communicate about most things quite openly and freely with people in New Zealand, and you can understand the country quite easily because we don't have the long history. We don't have like overpowering political things happening here. And I think the systems, like the social systems, the education systems, are all quite simple to understand. So it's a very approachable country. I think it would be actually a good place for people who are wanting to go abroad for maybe 1 year and see a new place. And New Zealand would be a good start, a good starting place before you go somewhere that's a bit more intense or a bit more complicated, like Australia or America or even the UK maybe. It's not already saturated by Chinese people. Like there are a lot of Chinese people here, but definitely not as many as in like Canada or the UK or even like Italy or in Melbourne or Sydney in Australia or in the USA. So you can still get a good feeling of like the authentic New Zealand cultural vibes here, which is cool.
还有一点想要说的就是在新西兰这边他们的开车的时候那个车子它的驾驶的座位跟中国是正好相反的，我不知道说这个有没有用。对，
I think what you could say is getting your license
对
before you come here would be
对
a good
对
idea.
对，在中国考完驾照然后来这边再来考新西兰的驾照，就其实只需要2步，但如果你在新西兰从头开始考，它有一个很长的时间。对，我觉得可以在中国考了驾照再过来。
Is there like any places that you would recommend people visiting?
我觉得有很多地方都可以去啊，新西兰这么美，对不对？就环岛游我都推荐，就环岛游才是正确的打开方式。对。
And that's definitely possible to drive around the whole.
对。
Just to drive around the whole country.
是的，都看一看，来都来了，对吧？
It's not as difficult as like trying to drive around Japan, for example. There's like hundreds of islands or whatever, and there's only three major islands here, and there's like a good system to drive between them. I'm not saying you drive on the water. There's not a bridge, but there's like a ferry that takes you from one island to the other if you did want to drive across the whole country. That was cool. I think we dug into quite a few things here that I think would be useful and valuable for people, who are interested in coming to New Zealand or even just knowing about New Zealand. Maybe they don't want to come here, which is fair enough. There's a lot of places to go today, but thanks for filling us in with all this information, Elaine.
不客气。
Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening, people. And hopefully see you again in another one and can have another chat together. Goodbye.